In the Fuzzy Memories podcast, we celebrate the good, the rad, and the fugly of the 80s and 90s.
We're three latchkey kids who made it out alive.
And in each episode, we break down all the culture that popped, 1 year at a time.
Whether it's the birth of legends...
I'm Lyme disease free today, and I have Whitney Houston and MTV to thank. Or audacious moves.
Imagine also the poor Golden Gate Bridge. You turn 75 and people have a party on you.
Yep. I don't want that.
Or even confusing PSAs.
And the stop, drop, and roll. I mean, I assumed
Yes.
as an adult I would catch on fire weekly.
All the time!
We've got a take that will make you laugh.
We've also got thoughts on all sorts of random phenomena and the most unmitigated of golf.
Why sharks can't be trusted, people can't be trusted, and rivers can't be trusted. It's collusion.
Of the highest degree.
Uh-huh.
You were counseling me to start my remarks with, first of all, bitch.
Everyone in that room would have snapped to attention.
It's going to be basically coffee lids, shark revenge, and then maybe like Matt Getz. God, we need to do something about him.
Join us every other Wednesday to celebrate the hits, the misses, and the misfits of the weirdest decades.
If I could tell my 14-year-old self from 1990 that I would be eating in a Cheesecake Factory in
Beverly Hills.
I'd be like, we did it. We did it, Joe.
We did it.
Listen and subscribe to Fuzzy Memories on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books, the podcast with one unique theme, 4 hand-picked book recommendations, and 2 broads. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode number 36, Poetic Justice.
Poetic Justice.
Which makes me think of the Janet Jackson movie.
It did me too.
Right?
Yeah.
With Tupac?
Yes. Not where we're coming from.
Not where we're
on
coming
this
from.
episode.
We could have done a Janet Jackson themed
We could have.
thing. We did not. Could we? Are there enough books about Janet Jackson?
That's something.
There should be.
There should be. We'll figure that out.
Okay, we'll figure
come
that out.
back to you on that one. This theme, though, not about poetry.
No.
If you were confused.
No. Because we
Poetic.
don't know shit about poetry.
No, I know nothing.
No.
No books to recommend to you. Sorry. Except for Shel Silverstein.
Little Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, some Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Mm-hmm. This actually, though, is all about true crime, but with the justice angle.
For sure.
We want to see some justice.
We want to see some damn justice, because sometimes there's a lot of true crime out there where you don't get a sense of a completed story or of justice or anything like that. Yeah.
You don't get to see the end.
Sure don't.
You see, maybe they're captured, but you never get to see
Right.
it to its full conclusion.
So I would say some of our picks, they've got some terrible stuff going on, but man, you get a sense of justice.
You do.
Feels
Poetic
good.
justice.
Poetic justice,
Little
Janet Jackson
Karma
style.
is a bee.
That's what we should have named this. Karma is a bee. Somehow in the copy, made it sound like
Yeah,
you
it would have
just
to be
said,
like an audio file.
Yeah. An audio file.
Okay.
Yes. So, Erin, thinking about true crime.
Yes,
Because you are thinking about this a lot.
I am.
Thinking about some of the things that you've admitted on our podcast so
Yes,
far about
yes.
your love for true crime. I want to ask you about one of your favorite people, Keith Morrison.
Yes.
If you could spend one day with Mr. Keith Morrison from Dateline, what would you do?
I have thought about this in excess.
Of course you have.
And I don't mean that to sound stalkery, but here's what it would be. First of all, we would have to start out very early because I have a lot to pack into this day.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to have to start with a coffee date and a really long breakfast.
Oh.
Because part of this day is just me listening to you talk. I have to know if in his normal life he uses those same turn phrase.
Yeah. Because you've mentioned that he does these very sort of not stereotypical, just almost cliched
Yes, but they
deliveries.
sound original coming out of his mouth, which is
Little
amazing.
did he know.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
yeah. But he also asks some very questions that come across as humorous, even though they're very serious. He's got this very interesting style that I have to know if that carries over into his, normal
For sure. So you think
conversational
over
patterns.
breakfast, he's going to reveal if he really does this.
Yeah.
In person. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I will prep for
Okay.
this meeting. So I might have a notebook that I have to refer to of questions.
Sure.
Like, follow-up questions.
Of course.
Also, in part of the day, then, there's going to be lunch and dinner that also are very lengthy and
Yes.
include lots of talking.
I mean, this is a good day already because there's a lot
Yes.
of food involved.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm not sure I'll be able to eat because I'll be too nervous, but too excited. Like,
You'll also read into like whatever he chooses off the
Yes.
menu. You'll be like, oh, of course you chose the egg sunny side up.
I will only eat my eggs sunny side up from now on. But the rest of the time, I want to follow him around, not while he's working, like producing a story, but I don't want to be like the camera. I don't want that. I want to know what his process is behind the scenes, like the writing, the investigating. When he gets somewhere, what does he do? Like, does he go to the hotel and like take the place in? Does he tour around? Like, I want to know how do you find that random gate in the field that you stand by?
Are you just constantly looking for gates?
Yes.
And things to lean
Things
on?
to lean on?
Yeah.
I want to know. I have to know.
I want to see too. I'm going to give you a few things you need to check on with him
Okay,
as
good,
well.
good.
I want to see if he like preps himself up before he's on camera, like what kinds of exercises he does,
Yeah. Do you tie and untie your Converse?
Exactly. Do you fiddle with your... Does he wear a tie? He doesn't wear a tie.
No.
No. Sorry. Oh, God. Erin just gave me this look of utmost disapproval.
No. He doesn't
See,
come
I'm a
in like
Keith Morrison
that.
novice. I'm sorry.
It's okay. You're getting
Okay.
there. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I just want to know what he does to like prep himself.
I like that.
Yeah.
It would be great if he had some kind of pump up soundtrack.
Yes.
That I could then adopt
like
as my
Janet
own.
Jackson.
Rhythm Nation.
A little nasty.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can see him getting pumped
Tempo
up.
by
Yes.
Lizzo and Missy Elliott.
If Keith Morrison pumped himself up with Lizzo, that'd be wonderful.
That would be
a great story.
Everything that I love converging into one.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So many great things.
Well, this is going to be a great day.
It's going to be phenomenal. And I hope he understands I'm going to need the full 24 hours. It's going to be midnight to midnight. So
Does that mean you're going to show up at his place at midnight?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
like,
prepare
listen.
him, so we might as well start because it's probably awkward to have me watch you sleep. So just
Sure,
get
sure.
up and
Yeah,
we'll
yeah.
just start the day.
We'll just start then.
We'll just start the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Because that means if we have to work in some snack time too, that's fine.
God, yeah.
Because we can continue the
There's
conversation.
more time to talk.
over delicious
Yeah.
snacks. Yeah.
So really, it's a day of food and Keith Morrison and finding things to lean on.
Which is everything I've ever wanted in a day.
God. If I could get you the best birthday present ever, that's what I would get you.
It would be complete. Like
I don't
could,
know how I could make this
there
work,
would
but it
be
would do
no
it.
other birthdays in my life ever because nothing can
you
top
might have
that.
to die after that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
how do you come back
yeah.
from that?
Yeah, you don't.
like the next every birthday after that's just a disappointment because it's not meals and Keith Morrison.
Yeah.
Meals maybe, Keith Morrison no.
No.
Major ingredient to making it work. It'd be delightful.
Yeah.
It'd be so delightful.
Oh, God. It'd be wonderful.
So knowing, I mean, I'm going to ask this question on kind of almost a personal level. I need to know, Amy, what you would do if a really good friend confessed a crime to you. I don't know what crime it is. You can pick. If
You know
there's
who
a range.
it is, though. I mean, I'm picturing you confessing a major crime to me.
Yes.
And immediately, I'm going to parlay that into your 24 hours with Keith Morrison. I am going to think marketing. I'm going to think reality show. I'm going to think merchandising. I'm going to think, how do I get Erin in touch with Keith Morrison?
Wow.
And maybe that's how he gets involved, is I hold out this bait. Like, listen, Erin's done something.
Yeah.
It's going to be good.
It's going to be big.
But first, in order to cover this story of a lifetime, you got to spend 24 hours with her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even go that angle. I just figured you'd help me bury the body.
Well, I mean, that's the first step.
Okay.
But then, if you're comfortable with it,
Okay.
if you want,
If we
people to
wanna
know,
use
which I
this.
think you would want people to know at
Yeah.
some point. Yeah. If you don't want people to know, then hey, I will, I'll bury those bodies. I'll kill whoever witnessed it. I'll engage in some criminal activity too, just so we can be equal, so we can share in that guilt and that shame, but also that like, holy shit, look what we did. Yeah.
Wow, I appreciate that so much. I wasn't even going to go as far as you had to kill people yourself, but the fact that you brought it in.
Yes, I mean, it doesn't take much, I guess, but that's terrifying.
Yeah, we have some things
That's
to
where
talk
I
about
went,
off
yeah.
air. Yeah, off air. Yep.
All right, Erin, another question for you.
Okay.
And I think you're going to ask me something similar, but if I was a crime, me, Amy, if I was a crime, I want to hear what you think that crime would be.
Okay. So when I thought about this, the first thing I thought was that clearly you would be inciting a riot. And then I was like, no. For some worthy cause. But then I was like, no. Amy hates crowds. So she would start it and leave so there'd be no chance for an arrest. Okay.
Yes.
So what I decided is that if you were a crime, you would be a very complicated insider trading scheme where charities or nonprofits of your choosing that were worthy would benefit and Bernie Madoffs of the world would topple. And it would be super thought out and super methodical. And it would be really hard for anyone to be like, yeah, I mean, we have to prosecute her, although I don't really believe.
We just want to applaud her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that you would just be down 100%. You would stand by it. That's what I think. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I have some thinking to do
I know.
about that.
Well,
Yeah.
I know that it would be well thought out and very methodical. See, inciting riot is too impulsive. That would not be your. No.
You're right, and I hate crowds, so I couldn't get behind that too much. No. I'd have to be like, all right, write it down. See ya. Yeah.
Okay, you guys take it over, and I'm gonna go.
I like it though, like turning the Bernie Madoffs of the world, into like supporting the Iowa Farm Sanctuary.
See, that's what you would. It would be, it'd be some crazy twist like that, and people would be like, I can't do anything but be supportive.
Somehow have all the Republicans sending anonymous donations to Planned Parenthood.
Yeah, it would be like. Yes. And there'd be a ridiculous GoFundMe page for your criminal fund because people were like, we're not doing this. No, we're not. Let's just pardon her and move on. We got bigger fish to fry. This one, no.
You know what's funny is because I had to think of what kind of crime you would be. I kind of went similar.
Oh.
I said that you would be the long con. You would be like, because you've talked about your Corpian espionage, your takeover of cartels. The main crime would be the long work up to that, where no one sees you coming.
Yes.
I see you, like, you're going to watch everything play out. You're going to, like, watch people in the carpool lane, like, that maybe, that are married to the bad people, whatever. You're going to watch them in the carpool lane. You're going to go to wrestling matches and watch them there. You're going to go to, like, a Halloween party and, like, watch their couple dynamics and everything. You're going to do the work, and then you're going to strike.
Swoop in. And no one's ever going to know.
No one's ever going to know.
You're right. That is the perfect crime for me. Yeah,
you're going to take them down and know, like, what happened? Erin happened.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what happened.
It's terrifying how much I like that. This is cause for concern that this sounds appealing to me. So appealing. I'm like, let's go con some people.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it does. That's perfect. That's exactly what I would want to do.
God, crime sounds amazing.
Right? Why aren't we doing more crimes?
We're also sort of rule followers.
We
though.
are, yeah.
We're afraid of authority in a lot of ways.
I'd be petrified. But I would do the work, you're right. A long con would be great.
Part of us doing the work is because we're afraid of authority and because we're afraid of following rules. We're going to put the work in so no one can judge
I like
us.
in both our crimes, maybe it goes so far that we get away with it when we're like super old and we know we're both on our deathbeds and we write like tell-alls and we're like,
Yes.
look, guess what I was?
Yeah.
I was whatever name you gave me.
Yeah, you thought I was, safe and
Yeah.
no problems here. But guess what?
You even invited me to investigate that crime. And I was like,
Precisely. Well, on that note.
yes. Picks.
Let's look at some picks.
Some picks. All right.
So my fiction pick today is The Gone Dead by Chanel Benz. And this came out a couple months ago in 2019. And I read her story collection that came out in 2017. And it's one of the best titles ever. The Man Who Shot Out My Eye is Dead. The name of the story collection. It is.
That is the best title ever.
It's so good. And it's just one line in one of her stories. It's not like the title of a story. It's just one line. The stories themselves are so good.
Really?
She's a really great writer.
I've never even heard about it. That's amazing.
I have
Okay.
this downstairs. I can lend it to you.
Oh, yes.
So I read this and I was like, oh my God, I'm a new super fan. So
Yeah.
I was super excited to hear her novel coming out. So in the novel, the main character is Billy. And we meet her as she's inherited a little bit of money and also this house that's in the Mississippi Delta. Her father owned the house, and he was sort of a renowned Black poet and civil rights activist who died suddenly in the early 70s when Billy was only 4 years old. So the story goes that he fell and hit his head and that it was an accident. Billy was there that day that her dad died, but she doesn't remember it. And her mom, who was a white woman, then moved them out of Mississippi. So she hasn't been back to this area in many years, 30-some years. So she comes back, and she's feeling out the house. She's feeling out the town. She's remembering things she thought that she'd forgot. Like, she's hearing rumors about her family. She's even hearing rumors about how she went missing on the night that her dad died. And, like, she showed up on the local news as a missing girl. And she's like, I don't remember any of this. What is this about? There's also rumors how her dad didn't really fall, that it wasn't an accident. So at first she's just there to figure out what to do with her inheritance. But then she's drawn into this mystery of how her dad died, what happened to her when she was a little kid. She starts digging into the history of the white family nearby and the whole history of the area during slavery in a sense. So we meet this whole cast of characters along the way, including her rundown uncle, her cousins that she hasn't seen in a while, the white family, the McGees, and a biographer of her father's who has uncovered some interesting stuff.
Oh.
What I love about this is it's not just a straight up mystery. You know, there's this deep look at one woman who's trying to figure out her family, but also reconcile that with this whole sort of messed up Southern way, this whole system, you know, down there. I think that when you read this, you'll find a sense of justice, but also deep injustice, just of the whole, you know, the whole time, the whole racial politics, everything. There's no easy answers here. You do get a sense of finality. You get a sense of satisfaction, but you also get a sense of sort of disquiet at the end, which I think is really powerful, you know. And you know that the people involved will be changed forever.
Oh.
So, The Gone Dead, another killer title, not as great in my mind as the short story collection title, which is epic and no one can ever top it. But excellent title.
Very
excellent book.
Intriguing. It sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have never heard of her as an author, so
well, I'm glad I introduced her to you.
Yeah.
And to our listeners.
That's what this is all about.
That's what it's all about.
Introductions. Introducing people.
That's right.
Well, for the fiction pick this week, I picked a book called The Last Place You Look by Kristen Lempianka. And this is actually great news about this is if you like this book, it's actually a series. Ooh. Okay. She just released number 3. And the main character is Roxanne Weary, who is a PI who is tasked in this story of finding Sarah Cook, who happens to be a teenager that disappeared 15 years ago on the same night that her parents were brutally murdered in their suburban Ohio home. At the time, she had a boyfriend named Brad Stockton, who was black and not from the right side of the tracks, as they say. And he was convicted of the murders and is on death row, even though he has maintained the whole time he was innocent. He had nothing to do with it. But Sarah disappeared. So basically, the only witness that could maybe say he didn't do it is nowhere to be found. So Brad's sister thinks that she spots Sarah at a gas station in the area. So she hires Roxanne Weary, this PI, to find Sarah because she thinks this is her brother's only hope. So Roxanne is this very tough, very smart, very intriguing PI. Her father was a police officer for many years and has recently died. And so she kind of gets convinced to take this case because she thinks there might be a link between this case and one of the cases that her father never solved, which haunted him to the end. Okay. So she thinks, this could be a great tribute to him to solve this case. I love the case, the story. That will grip you in, but what will really get you is Roxanne Weary as a character. So she's just real. That's what I like about her. Sometimes I think in true crime or those veins, we can kind of get the polished,
for sure,
hero kind of police officer, detective. Not to say that they aren't, but just almost to a fault. And in this, she has made Roxanne Weary so real and so accessible. Her life is super messy. Her family's messy. Her motives are messy. I mean, nothing is as cut and dry. She's not always lovable, but she's super authentic. And she also happens to be the first lesbian PI that I've ever encountered in a, true crime vein. Or not true crime, I should say, but crime writing vein. So there's tons of twists and turns. You'll be surprised, but I think what I like about it the most is this character. And I've read the second one. The third one came out recently. I haven't had a chance to read that one yet, but I her writing is great. It's the case will keep you moving forward, but you also want to know more and more and more about Roxanne. You just keep getting more intrigued by her story, what her life is like, the struggles she has with relationships, both romantic and with her family, with her siblings, with her mom in the aftermath of her dad's death. So it's great and really could hit any reader because you've got family drama, you got relationship drama, you got crime drama. I mean, what more do you want?
Sounds like a hell of a mix.
It is.
Yeah, she sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's terrific. It was a great read. So
Excellent. I could see that being a very good TV show as well.
yes, actually, yeah.
Or like a movie or something. Yeah.
And that's kind of why I picked it for this with the justice angle, because it's very procedural in some areas. You're really given an insight into kind of how she's trying to break the case down, knowing that she's going to need evidence or knowing she's going to have to set this up to be prosecuted. So she's really looking at things from that angle and that filter all the time, which is kind of an interesting way to write the story, I think. So it's not just about the details, it's also about what you can prove.
I like, too, that you said that she feels very authentic. I think that sometimes, like you said, PIs or other, crime solvers in media can either be too clean and too perfect or the other way where they're just too much of a mess. You just don't even want to, deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, the truth has to be that it's somewhere in the middle, like anyone in any profession.
Sure.
But yeah, you either have like the get smart dragnet type or the, I'm falling apart and my life is, I live in a box and no one ever knows, type of thing. Yeah.
Is that the opposite of dragnet, is living in a box?
I feel like it. Yeah.
I think so too.
With no phone in your shoe.
That's right. They predicted we would have shoe phones.
Yeah, because that's so convenient.
So convenient because you got to stop and take your shoe off to take a call.
If anything, I mean, the cufflink thing always got me. They just lift up their arm and talk. Yeah. That seems way more convenient.
Seems way more convenient.
Which we sort of have with the watches now.
We do.
But
and even Mr. Gadget, he had a phone watch.
Yes.
And it was like, when that came around, that's pretty badass. But
taking your shoe off and putting it up to your head, that's just going to end bad.
Especially
People are going to
be like, winter, you got to unlace your boots.
Yes.
You got to worry about your socks.
Am I short circuiting the electronics in my shoe if I walk through snow? I don't know.
Obviously, they weren't thinking about Midwest winters when they came up with this plan.
No. What happens if I wear my shoe out? but the phone is still good.
Yes. What happens if you go to a bar and you get someone spilling beer on your shoe?
Oh my gosh. I got to be angry and get in a bar fight now because of my shoe phone?
Which is the logical next step of getting in a bar fight. Yeah.
Well, obviously. You shorted out my bar phone, which is how I get all my spy intel.
That makes me think that you've been in a bar fight, but I think you probably haven't.
Oh, no.
Okay,
no.
but I would love to, I love the idea of thinking that, yes, you've been in a bar fight. And, it's that easy. Just, you ruined my shoe? I am in. Yeah.
Crack a pool cue on your head.
I'm taking my earrings off. I'm ready to go.
Yes. I've always wondered about the taking your earrings off thing. Who's taking that kind of time?
I know.
I'll never find
then you're
it
just
again.
trash talking each other.
Yeah.
Somebody could give you
let me get this. I don't usually ever wear super big earrings, so I think that's maybe part of it. They don't want you to rip it down.
Yeah, like hoop or something like that. Yeah.
I'm so good at bar fighting. You're not going to get to my ears.
I think that line right there will get you with Keith Morrison.
Yeah.
I'm so good at bar fighting, I don't need to take the earrings off.
Exactly.
He'll be very intrigued by that.
My other image of bar fighting is just cracking pool cues. That's it. I don't know. In every bar, whether there's a pool table or not, I picture someone getting cracked over the head with a pool cue.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just start
the bottle thing. And then you're ready to cut somebody. I went a little more violent. Oops.
You went straight to stabbing.
You went straight to stabbing.
Jagged bottle stab. Which sounds terrible. Actually, I feel like that would do more damage than an actual knife because it's so jagged and
and there's multiple entry points.
You can't see because this is a podcast, but she's jabbing at her own neck. So not only is she going to stab with a random bottle, it's going to be in the neck, going for the jugular.
For sure.
Okay.
Where else would you go with a broken bottle?
I went stomach for some reason. Which is
it can take a person days to die from a stomach wound. We're talking neck. We're talking neck where it's just going to be real fast.
That's a lot smarter. Yeah. Why was I going for the tummy?
I don't know. You disappoint me with your true crime.
Yeah, that was dumb. Yeah. I guess I was thinking you could stick it in and then it would just, a bottle would be sticking out of their stomach. Clearly, we have no experience in fighting. I don't even think these things are physically possible.
I'm picturing a guy just walking around with the bullet or with the bottle in his.
Yeah.
Oops, got me good.
Look what happened Friday night.
I would take it out, but it's going to be a real mess.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
You know what? I just decided it is a war wound. I'm leaving that bottle in. And you know
Like
what?
shrapnel.
I like Budweiser, so it fits.
It definitely would be a Bud Heavy bottle, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. It'd have to be.
Wow. Where did we start? What happened there? Okay.
There's a path back.
Yep. Okay, so back to Justice.
Justice.
Guess what? Coming in hot with a nonfiction pick. And I picked something that Erin has also read, and
Yes.
Erin has picked something that I've read. We usually surprise each other with our picks,
do.
but this week we consulted because we've just read these books, felt very strongly about both of them.
And I didn't want one of us to pick
Exactly.
the same one. We had an opportunity to bring both of these great picks to you.
So that's what we did.
And you need to read them both.
So you're going to hear from both of us.
You are.
On these books.
But Amy's going to come in hot
Coming hot.
first.
And I'm coming in hot with a book called Nobody's Victim, Fighting Psychos, Stalkers, Pervs, and Trolls by Carrie Goldberg, published just a couple months ago, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So Carrie Goldberg is a New York lawyer, and about 10 years ago, she had a psycho ex who tried to ruin her life. They dated for just about 4 months, and when she ended it, he bombarded her with texts and emails and calls. He sent messages to everyone she knew on Facebook. He filed a fake police report that put her in jail, and he threatened to send naked photos and videos that she didn't know about to everyone that she knew. So to try and get away from this, she moved. She spent $30,000 in legal fees. She lost relationships. And at the bottom of just feeling like total garbage and just feeling like life was terrible, she decided to be the lawyer that she'd needed back then. So she started this firm that's now the fastest growing, I think she said, in the country.
Yeah.
And in this book, she writes about the kinds of cases that they take on and the kinds of lobbying efforts that they're working on to change the laws. The power of this book is in some of the examples that she writes about. There's a woman whose ex-boyfriend made fake bomb threats in her name. There's a teenager who was sexually assaulted on school grounds, and then the administrator suspended her for reporting it.
Yeah.
That got me and Erin real hot.
Yep.
A man whose ex-boyfriend used a dating app to send over 1,000 men to his home with instructions for rough sex and rape fantasies. Just think about that for a second and how that could have gone down. The attackers that she identifies fall into sort of predictable categories, which she calls assholes, psychos, pervs, and trolls. And with each of them, she kind of carefully lays out the pattern that they have, because they do have a pattern, each one of these. And by identifying that pattern, hopefully we can stop them and create laws to block them. Some of the most, and tell me if you agree here, Erin, but I think some of the most frustrating points that she makes is how tech companies get away with having no protections built in for this kind of thing. And they make reporting almost impossible. She also goes in depth about how our current legal structure, it allows for this. It just hasn't caught up with our society now. And there's so much technology involved that the laws are just so far behind that it does not protect the people that are being attacked in this way. I think you may listen to this and you may think this is pretty complicated stuff, and it absolutely is, but it is. You fly through this book. It is gripping. It is horrifying. It is so well done. And you get kind of a feeling of satisfaction at the end.
Yes.
Because there have been a lot of things that they've done that have made the situation better. For example, her firm has removed more than 30,000 non-consensual images and videos from the internet and jailed more than a dozen people who have done this. They've successfully sued the New York City Department of Education on behalf of a teen girl who was gang raped by classmates in her school's stairwell and then suspended for lying. And they've helped craft a dozen states' revenge porn laws and promote the first federal bill aimed at protecting victims of revenge porn.
And I'm going to interrupt you right there, because I think the first one you read about the 30,000 images, that was something that was very interesting to me in the book. And I think it's important to note, because I think sometimes the argument about nude images or videos is we have this tendency to say, well, just don't send them.
Yes.
But it's very important to note that in most of these cases, these women, A, didn't know they were being recorded, B, didn't know that their boyfriend, spouse, whoever it was, took those pictures. And then what's happening is that there are websites that are paying people to upload these pictures.
Yeah, they want specifically non-consensual stuff.
Yes, they're specifically going, so these people are not only getting the double of being able to humiliate someone, but they're also getting paid for it. And again, this is not a consensual thing. So to take 30,000, that's telling you how big this is, and that's probably a small dent in
probably. Yeah, I think the way that she was talking about this, which she labels this part of revenge porn, it could be videos as well. The way she was talking about it is such an epidemic right now that this is probably just a drop in the bucket, but it is a substantial effort to start putting these companies on notice that this will not be legal any longer.
Yes, absolutely.
Which it really is right now, which is part of the problem. So I think, in this book, she's working to transform clients, transform them from victims to warriors, she says, which is really cool. And it makes her a certified badass. And like I said, you will leave this book feeling like, holy shit, our world sucks. But also you will feel like, God damn, I'm glad there's Carrie Goldberg and other people that are working to make it better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you will have a sense of satisfaction. I mean, you'll be enraged
for
quite a bit during the book, but you'll have this amazing sense of satisfaction at the end that she's getting somewhere.
Yes.
That she's getting traction.
That the laws are changing.
Yes.
And that people are more recognizing this more. Yeah, for sure.
But it's also interesting from a legal angle that she went into this as a lawyer, and part of her mission and part of the reason she's the fastest growing is because she's developed an actual strategy for helping people that are in this situation that are, and it's not as simple as just saying, they're posting bad things on Facebook. Like you mentioned, I mean, she had one, but she has clients who they're getting multiple police reports filed, things that like, I didn't do that. And so she's giving them ways to combat that and help the police understand right away that, no, that was a false claim. This person didn't actually do that. Giving them how to do the documentation, how to do the paperwork to make sure that all flows. And she's using her vast knowledge and firsthand experience, which is awesome.
It is. And, I think she goes to lengths to say this affects both men and women. It affects women, I think, probably more because of this. But the attackers, the psychos, the stalkers, the pervs, the trolls, they're all men.
Yeah.
And so there is something very significant happening here to our culture, to men in the culture. And, this is something she's taken on. And damn, it's a good book.
Another thing that I took from it that you don't hear this often, but I think particularly for females, because she talks a lot about when she's talking about the different categories, she's talking about how these men present at the beginning.
Yes,
too.
how they're the best boyfriend ever. They're so loving. And
and they're perfect, Prince Charming. They do everything right and so many gifts. And I think sometimes as females, we're taught to believe that is what we should want in a relationship. We want the guy showing up with flowers and taking us on dates.
Constant attention. And even jealousy. We want all that.
Yeah, that seems flattering. Like, oh, he doesn't want anyone else. He's that into me. We're kind of taught to believe that that's normal, or that you've achieved the greatest goal. You found the perfect guy. And in reality, these are the ones she has shown in this book, the pattern of behavior of how at first it seemed so great. Almost all of her clients that came to her with that type of situation, similar to hers, were, oh, he was wonderful and he did this and he did that, and extravagant gifts and trips and all these things that sound like what somebody wants. And I think we do such an injustice, especially to young women, when we say that that's the goal that we're reaching,
and that's what we should be looking for.
Instead of saying, no, I want a mutual partnership, or I want someone that treats me with respect, and I want someone that respects my boundaries, whatever those boundaries are.
Trust me.
And instead of focusing on that, we say, well, he's wealthy and he got you all these flowers and he took you on these trips and he bought you jewelry and wonderful clothes, and and then what happens is they're under that control. So I thought that was another point that doesn't get made a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah, very much. And I think she does a lot to take that down, both with her personal experience and then with the experiences she's had with her clients.
Yes.
So I think this book is very remarkable. Like Erin said, infuriating, but also satisfying. It talks about, a sort of cultural epidemic and individual people and what's happening on a smaller scale. I think maybe your pick talks a little bit higher level, higher profile, perhaps.
It does. So I'm going to preface and say that I read this book that Amy just talked about and then my book back to back. And
I did too, actually.
I read that first one and I was enraged. I was hot.
I am hot.
I was hot. Reading this one, I got a little calmed down because there's a pace to it. It's very methodical. And most of the time, this book, I felt sad.
Yeah.
So I was enraged.
A deep sense of sadness.
A deep sense of sadness, but also with some
justice.
satisfaction
Yes.
and justice. So the book that I am recommending this week is called She Said, Breaking the Sexual Harassment Story That Ignited a Movement by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey. So these two women work for the New York Times, the investigative journalists. They have a lot of fabulous stories under their belts. They're very well respected. The little blurb that's on the book says, from the Pulitzer Prize winning reporters who broke the news of Harvey Weinstein's sexual harassment and abuse for the New York Times, Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, the thrilling untold story of their investigation and its consequences for the Me Too movement. So that's kind of summarizing it in a nutshell. But if you think that you know this story, which we all do,
We
know
all
some
did.
version.
Yes, I thought I did.
Yes, you don't.
You don't.
And what is so amazing is that if you know someone like this, or you maybe are someone that has some doubts or says, well, I don't really understand how this got broken.
These women? Yeah.
Yes. You need to read this book because what this book does is lay out how the women first heard about the allegations and then how they went through methodically for months and months and did their research, found corroborating evidence, went back to witnesses, went back to Harvey Weinstein. They did everything they could to check every single fact and make sure that they had everything correct. They took every turn they could to make sure that Weinstein himself had an opportunity to comment.
Which was terrifying.
Or to refute anything. I mean, they did everything they could to make sure that this story was on point, done right, done fair, done with integrity at the front, and you will have so much respect for them throughout this process. So much respect for the fact that they're hearing these tragic, very emotional stories, and they're still able to have a balanced thought process of, okay, but I have to go back and make sure that this is correct and this is correct. And to me, it is the perfect argument to people who say, well, you know, that all can't be true, or that, you know, it is so well researched. And to hear the behind the scenes of it, fantastic. So really the first half of the book is really covering that. But then the second half kind of moves into the Kavanaugh hearing and Dr.
And the whole Me Too epidemic then after the Weinstein story.
That kind of hooks into the Kavanaugh and then Dr. Christine Blasey Ford, her decision to testify before the committee. And they break all that down through the help of the lawyers that were representing her at the time. So you get firsthand knowledge of what she was thinking, what she was feeling. And if you thought that she just did this because she thought it was going to be a great moment of revenge, that is not the case.
No, that was so heartbreaking too. That whole part of showing how torn she was, how driven she was, but how horrified that she knew this could change her entire life, her family's life, everything.
Yes. And it was just to hear her thought process. And they even have actual correspondence between her lawyers via text messages and emails and things in this story. And to hear how they went through that and how they figured all of that out was just, it's beautifully written. Like we said, it's this slow, methodical, because they are showing you all the evidence and all, but it reads very quickly. Yeah. It reads as quickly as the first one does. And you have a range of emotions. I felt, you know, you feel like screaming yes, and you're sad, and I'm not going to lie that I cried multiple times. I mean, it's just, they did such a good job of bringing the emotion into it in a logical, balanced, thoughtful way. I mean, it's just the facts that are making you feel that way. It's not someone's emotional writing. And the other thing that I loved about this is that they took a little bit of time to dive into the Me Too movement and talk about stories that broke that they know the due diligence wasn't done. That they know that a reporter didn't do all the research or didn't check facts or didn't get a source on the record.
Hurt the cause. And,
and they were very upfront about that. And I loved that because I also think that's important to note, because that was, some people sometimes use that as a scapegoat, but other people, that is an actual issue to them. Like, okay, this is great to have this movement, but how do we control it? How do we not let this get, quote unquote, out of control? Right. And they talk about that too, that it is important in these cases to make sure that you're going to all the sources, you're getting the information, that the accused parties having an opportunity to discuss their viewpoint, you know, have a response. And I really liked hearing that from two journalists who had the same feeling. You know, not to say that we don't believe those people, but putting it out as a story, there's a different level if it's going to be a journalistic story that needs to be met.
And that was one thing I really enjoyed from the book as well, is just seeing how an investigative journalistic piece should be done and is done. You know, I think so many people, especially right now, are very quick to say how the media is, you know, not speaking fake news, all that kind of stuff. However, if you read into how this process was done, there's absolutely no cause for that. This was, and the levels of fear they had to work through, both from the women that wanted to tell their story but were very afraid of repercussions, were very afraid of how their lives would change, very afraid of their own feelings of shame and just horror at what had happened.
Some of these women hadn't even told their families.
No.
So, you know, having to not only know that your story's going to come out on a national scale, but you're the closest people you know, your support system doesn't even know. So they're trying to process all that at the same time. It was fascinating. And what comes to mind, and it kind of makes me laugh, and you'll know why, because it's associated usually with a different news source. But I kept thinking, oh, this is fair and balanced. This is the actual.
This is actually fair and balanced. Yeah,
and that's actually what the feeling that you get. And what's terrific about that is that at the end, you feel justified in your feelings because you're like, well, I looked at the facts, I read both sides, I listened to what he had to say, and this is where I ended up.
Yeah,
and that feels very satisfactory on some
very
level.
Much so.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed, as disgusting as it was, hearing the actual conversations they had with Harvey Weinstein before they went to publish, because as part of an investigative journalist, you give the sources and the people that are being charged with something an opportunity to speak. They gave him many days, which as I'm reading it, I was just terrified. Like, oh my God, what's he going to do?
Yeah.
Seeing some of the things he said, seeing some of the notes from the meetings, I was just aghast at what was going on. And it was, very gripping read.
And you will be surprised at some public figures that you know.
Yes, you will. Yeah.
That you may have a different impression of.
Very much so. I do after this.
Yeah, I do too. So again, Amy brought it hot. And then I took it down to a slow dance.
Just a slow dance?
Yeah, we're going to slow it down now.
So we were grinding over here, and now it's
coming
slow
in
dance.
hot.
Coming in hot.
That maybe wasn't the best metaphor
Dirty
for these
dancing.
two. Yeah.
And
Do you
now
remember
slow
that
dance.
from like middle school? Like, we're going to slow it down.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
And then you put your arms on the other person's, and you just sort of
like
sway.
zombie
Yep,
swing.
sway.
Yep.
Zombie sway. Yeah, exactly.
So that's what happened
Okay,
here.
yeah.
We mixed it up for you.
Sure did. But yeah, I think, like we said, we don't usually talk about our picks beforehand.
No, we
but
don't.
These, we really wanted to cover both of them.
We did, yeah. And there was, partially for me, I read both of them after Amy read them. So then there was like real live texting where I was like, what is happening?
yeah.
I hate everything.
There was a lot of that. Yeah.
And then like followed up by, I'm crying.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. A lot of rage, a lot of tears, a lot of,
Yeah.
It was like a typical day in Podcat's life, who's suddenly woken up from her long winter's nap.
Do you have something to add?
And
No.
nope, just walking on by.
Yeah.
You do you, Podcat.
Fine.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, pop culture picks
Yes.
for some justice. I picked a show called Fargo, and it is on FX, created by a guy named Noah Hawley. There are 3 seasons done, and a 4th is coming. And I know what you're thinking, because I thought this way as well, too. Fargo was this great movie in 1996. It was very strange. It was very dark. It came from the Coen brothers. There's Minnesota accents. There's a pregnant cop. There's a death by a wood chipper. I don't know how you could top that. And so when I heard about the show, I was like, what is this? Are you redoing it? Like, how can you redo that? That makes no sense. I completely agree with all that, and that's not what this show is.
Oh.
It's not a remake. It's not the same characters.
Okay.
You're living in a universe that feels very Coen Brothers, and there's lots of references, but a completely different story.
Okay.
The first season is set in Bemidji, Minnesota, and it's got some similar characters to the movie in that there's a sort of henpecked husband, Martin Freeman, who suddenly turns violent. It's got a real scary assassin dude with a terrible haircut named Billy Bob Thornton. It's got a cop, Allison Tolman, who's got this really keen eye. She's surrounded by cops that don't really see all the things that she sees, and she has a very keen sense of justice of what things should be happening. It's got a gang based in Fargo and 2 FBI agents who are Key and Peele following them. Key and Peele show up, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Okay, I'm in. All right, cool.
Okay,
Let's go.
all right,
yeah.
All right.
It's still got the Minnesota accents. It's still got real sweet, simple people that are suddenly faced with this darkness of humanity, which I think is the sense you get from the movie, and that's brought through to the show. It's so smart. It's so good. Everyone there, even the people doing bad things, they're driven by a sense of justice. And that's why I picked this today. Because even as effed up as it might be, as self-absorbed, when Martin Freeman does some terrible things to cover his tracks, you see how he's rationalizing it. You see what he's doing, and you see how he thinks this is just, this is right.
Right. When
Billy Bob Thornton kills, you see his view of the world. You see how he's rationalizing it. You see how this matters to him. And what's even cooler is that every season is a new story. So it's sort of an anthology thing. Some connections to the first season, again, some connections to the movie, but its own independent thing. So part of the fun is drawing the links together. The second season has Kirsten Dunst as a 1970s wife, and Gene Smart as the leader of the Fargo gang, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The third season has Ewan McGregor playing twins and Carrie Coon as a cop.
Ooh.
So together you're getting this really super rich, involved story of cops and robbers. That's what I meant to say.
Roggers.
Also
known as roggers.
Those roggers over there.
Yeah.
The cops
Stop it.
and the roggers. Stop it, roggers. Them and sense of justice, like I said, that's pervading everything. And there is a fourth season coming next year, and it's going to be set in 1950s Kansas City with Chris Rock playing a lead.
Wow.
Should be very interesting.
So Key and Peele, are they only in the first season?
Only in the first season.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is there a humorous bent to them? Or
A
not
little bit.
Okay.
And like I said, this show shares some things with the movie, and that one of the things that it does is this weird sense of humor.
Okay.
There's definitely humor throughout that, like, should I be laughing at this? Yeah, I should
be laughing
at this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they definitely fill that role, but everyone really does. It's really clever how they do that.
Interesting.
And
So
then-
do each of the seasons kind of stand on their own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But like the first season, there's one character that you see as an older man. And then the second season, you see him as a younger man. And he's the cop that's sort of driving the story. So there are those connections there, which is kind of cool.
Themes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then,
cool.
like I said, there's Coen Brothers stuff. Like at one point, you see a sign for a White Russian for $4. You see like the suitcase of money from the Fargo movie. It plays a role here. Really fascinating how they do that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Same reason as you. I just never really,
And
then
then
ticked off the box.
Yeah,
but-
I dove in one time and I was like, oh, okay, I get what he's doing now. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put that on the list.
There you go.
Well, for pop culture this week, I brought a podcast.
Oh.
I did.
Yeah,
It's
you
put out
did.
by Wondery. It's called Over My Dead Body.
Oh.
It's a good one. So it's just completed its second season. The whole first season was the story of the Dan Markle murder, which if you're a Dateline fan or, 40 Hours, that kind of stuff, it's kind of having a moment right now because the trial has actually just started.
Oh.
Yeah, it's taken like 12 years or something
Oh my
to get
God.
this. Yeah. But the person dives in. They actually started this because they were doing a story about rabbis in New York that are hired to rough up husbands when they won't grant a divorce to the wife.
What?
Yeah. So this investigative reporter started that way, and he stumbled onto this Dan Markle murder, which if you're not familiar with, it was in Florida. It was a young couple. They were both lawyers. They were going through a very, very contentious divorce. They had 2 young sons. He was gunned down in his driveway, and in an area that there's no violence. There hadn't been a murder in multiple years. It was very strange and lots of weird characters involved, including the soon-to-be ex-wife's brother and her parents and all kinds of things. So what he does is break down the stuff that you don't see usually on TV. He tells you all about how they met, kind of all the before. He takes you through all the stuff that happened in their relationship leading up to that point. And he does that with family, friends. He was able to get documents, emails that Dan wrote about what was going on. So you're hearing first-person accounts through that. And then he takes you through the crime and then post-crime. And now they're actually on their podcast, they're posting updates from the trial. But then the second season followed a guy named Joe Exotic, who's this crazy guy who started a cub petting business, meaning like he was breeding tigers and stuff. And then you would go to like a mall, if you've ever seen, you could like pet cubs, right? And so he was targeted by an animal activist named Carol Baskin. And this whole season is like their story, which is basically ends with Joe in jail. And how far he wanted to go to get rid of Carol. And there's so many ups and downs and twists in that story. It sounds weird. It is fascinating. I mean, that these people exist is just something else. And I'll tell you right now that after you listen to the first episode, you will feel compelled to look up his image online, and I did, and it fits. It fits. It's exactly what I would picture some guy who calls himself Joe Exotic to look like.
Wait. So that's a name he gave himself?
Pretty much, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I've got an image now, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It should involve a mullet.
Absolutely, it
Okay,
does.
good,
Yeah.
good.
I'm actually picturing the character in Old School that like brings the petting ghost or something.
Yeah.
He has a crazy mullet and he has a trank gun. That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's very similar.
Okay, great,
You're right on board. Okay. So that's also fascinating. I knew nothing about that. I kind of knew a little bit something about the Dan Markle murder going in, but both of them, the way that they construct the stories, it's a different author / narrator for the two different seasons, but it is good. It's like compulsive. You'll just want to listen to it all.
And when you hear it, you feel a sense of like satisfaction.
Yes.
Afterwards. Like you get, okay.
Yes, because it's taking you through everything. I mean, they're taking real clips from the courtroom. I mean, you're listening to real defenses and things that are said. And in the case of Joe Exotic, I mean, they have interviews with him from jail in there. So it's really great. Plus the theme song is killer. You will not be able to get it out of your head. Trust me. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Man, we could have done a whole episode on podcasts dealing with true crime, with justice. There's so many.
There are.
And it's so satisfying to like get to the end of the season, have this full story in hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that seems to be a way that a lot of them are going, is kind of that serialized, where it's a set number of episodes and you get the whole thing. It's kind of almost like an faster paced audiobook version of the crime, which is great. It's wonderful to listen to. Very interesting. So
I'm surprised Dateline hasn't got into the podcast.
Oh, they have.
Oh, okay.
They have one called 13 Alibis, and then Keith Morrison released one called The Thing About Pam, which was an accompaniment to a story he did.
I've been seeing that. They've been trying to make me listen to that.
And then Erin Moriarty from 48 Hours has one too. Well, I think I haven't looked at that one at all, so I don't know if that's like an episode by episode one or whatever. But yeah, the other two are like, the 13 Alibis was never a Dateline story. It's just a podcast they put out by a Dateline producer. And the Keith Morrison one was like an accompaniment, like more information than they could include in the Dateline episode. So, and I mean, it's Keith Morrison.
Is he the one narrating it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you get his voice in your ears?
Yeah. Yeah. You just get your own personal time with Keith Morrison.
But you want more.
Anyone could ask for. Well, yeah, I need that
face-to-face hours. Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Well, we're going to get you that.
I need to put eyeballs on him. I need to know that it's Keith Morrison.
She's doing the arrows thing between the eyes. Yeah. Boo, 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 boo. Yeah.
Boo, boo, boo. I need eye laser radar. Boo, boo, boo. Yes. Locked in. Keith Morrison and I, BFFs.
He won't know what hit him.
No, he'll be delighted, I'm sure.
Oh, God, yeah.
It won't be weird.
If anything, he'll just be like, this lady is crazy, and I like crazy.
And I dig me some crazy. Crazy in a good way. I haven't killed anyone.
Absolutely.
The thing about Pam is she's a murderer.
Yes.
I am not.
Yes, you're just going to be a long con artist, as we discussed.
There's no murder. I mean, unless you get in my way, but I don't predict that I'll kill anyone.
Yeah. Okay. Good to
we'll
know.
go with that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So lots of good picks.
Yes.
Focused on justice. Poetic justice, you might say.
Justice.
Yes. So we are done with this episode, but we will be back next Wednesday. And in the meantime, you can head to our website, broadsandbooks.com, and check out all the recommendations we made in this episode.
Also on the website, some fantastic bonus material. That means bonus episodes.
Yeah.
That means, like we said, the notes where you can get all of our recommendations.
Yes.
You can also get other things that we link to if we mention it.
God.
So
We got
many
some
great
good links
things
in there.
So many great things.
Yeah.
One of the bonus things that we're working up is stories that you want to know about us. So that's something that you could send us.
Yeah. You got a question you want us to answer? You want to pose us a question? We will answer
We'll do it. You'll do it. You want to know more about my long con? We'll tell you.
You want to hear about how I'm going to take down some
Corporate terribleness.
I completely forgot his name. Is it Bernie
Madoff?
Madoff? Yeah, that's it.
Yep,
That's
yep,
it.
yep, yep,
Take
yep.
him down.
Yep.
He's already down, but take his ilk down. Yeah. After you've discovered all that great bonus material and all of our episodes,
much.
we would love it if you would give us a review. On Apple Podcasts, it's quite easy, as Podcast's saying right now. It's super easy. On other players, it may be a little bit more difficult. So if you use another player to listen to your podcast, send it our way directly. Send it via the social medias, via our email. We are ready to hear it.
We will. We'll make a party out of that.
Oh, such a party.
Such a party. The other thing is that we are always working on new themes.
Yes.
We're idea factories up in here.
Freaking idea factory.
But we would love to have satellite idea factories.
Oh, God, yeah.
So if you have an idea,
yeah.
send it our way. Yeah. You'll be a satellite idea factory.
Oh, my God. Little covens all around the world.
Everywhere. Just
ideas. Ideas. Little local cells of activity.
Exactly.
You can find us for theme ideas or for reviews or whatever you want to tell us at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our website.
Happy reading.
I'm up again. Same night, another dream. Before trying this recording thing, I didn't remember much of anything of these dreams. I didn't remember much from any of the women. And one night of doing this, and it's broken things open. The dreams they're in me, and they're coming out of me, and...
Talk to me. I am not broken. I am the most whole, most real.
Cause their despair. I wait for the word. Witch.
Look at the mad woman in her cage. She was a woman with holes inside her. That was the heaviest factor, the final evidence, the heart of the issue.
Somehow, you understand this. You hear me. Wherever you are, whatever this is, you...
This isn't a dream journal anymore. It's not. It's just fact. Because now this is some sort of record. What are these dreams? Maybe there's a better question. Who are these women? Weird Woman is a Broads and Books production. All 9 episodes are available January 10th. Listen and subscribe to Weird Woman on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. That's WYRD Woman, wherever you listen to podcasts.